Servus, liebe Leute, hier aus Unterföhring und aus London. Heute zusammen ich, der Manuel, mit Ray und Richard Teece. Hi, guys, how are you?
We're good, thank you.
Good, mate.
I hope all of you understands. Ich hoffe, jeder versteht uns deutlich und laut. Wir versuchen heute ein neues Mikro-Setup, was ich ausprobiert habe und was installiert wurde. Und jetzt schauen wir mal, ob es funktioniert. I just try to explain the people now how we work this out now.
Yeah.
So we will jetzt Englisch-Deutsch. Also, wir werden werde ich mich erinnern, Maxi. Servus. Also wir werden jetzt einfach auf Englisch reden. Der Julian wird versuchen, ein bisschen deutschen Text mit reinzuschreiben in den Chat. Ich werde aber auch versuchen, so gut es geht zu übersetzen, aber wir wollen auch eine einigermaßen gute Unterhaltung haben. Ich glaube, das kriegen wir aber alle gemeinsam hin, also das wird schon klappen. So, at the moment we are a couple of viewers. We are like 15. Markus from Swiss is there. Bianca from the North Germany. Maximilian aus München, from Munich. Alex, hi. Julian ist da. Also es finden sich gerade ein paar Leute. So we are waiting for some guys. So, Richard, Ray, what's going on in their life during the Corona situation?
Not a lot.
There's not a lot going on. Like I work from home anyway. So for me, I'm still working. It's less hours, but I'm still actually working. But besides that, it's, we're just all trying not to kill each other, basically.
Yeah, Ray. Before all this started, got some Bowl U products delivered to the house. I can't remember when. What, middle of last year?
Yeah, it was like June last year, I think.
Yeah, and the orb, it did turn up blue and white, but we've thrown it in the yard so much that it's now green.
It's like blue and green.
I have to explain what Ball U is.
Go ahead.
Ball U is von Rick Benoit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is and Brad Angelo does it, right? Rick Benoit and Brad Angelo's.
I believe so.
Yeah, Brad does a lot of teaching with Bowl U. Thomas Larson's a big proponent of Bowl U as well.
Okay, also Ball U ist eine Art Trainings. It's like a clinic company. Or...
Yeah, a clinic company in providing training tools.
Yeah, it's a coaching company, but they do things differently to a lot of other people. But it's more, I'd say it works better for everyone to develop their own personal style, while everyone also learns the basics for how it works for them.
Ja, also die Ball U stellt praktisch Trainingsmaterial zur Verfügung und dass die Leute halt Bowling spielen lernen, ohne they're not actually to use on the lane, right? That's actually using at home.
Yeah, practicing. At home, outside, wherever.
Yeah, I need to get in contact with Rick about it to get this.
They're
stuff.
really, really good tools as well. I mean, the orb works for one and two handers. It doesn't make any difference. Like all the drills, you just switch from one hand to two hand. It's quite easy to do, to be honest.
But it's an easy alternative to bowling. Instead of in a bowling alley, you can do it at home.
Yeah. So actually, Richard, you're doing practice a lot at the moment.
Well,
not on the lanes,
best I can. Not on the lanes. Yeah, I'm actually I'm doing a new physical regime to try and lose a bit more weight.
That reminds me on our first meetings.
Oh my god, I was massive.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was, if I remember right, that was European Men's Championships 2012? 11 in Munich. 11.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I meet Richard was at a Juniors Cup in Berlin. When you play against Lucas.
Yes! Oh my god, that was in Schiller Park.
Yeah, I was his coach.
Yeah, I remember. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like
I forgot about that.
209, 208.
Oh, 08? I think I was 18. I think. Yeah, because our age gaps were 218 and 18 to 21 back then. Or 22? No, 24.
Yeah, something like, yeah, it was up to under 24s.
Yeah, so I think it was
Back
my
then.
first year. 2008. That's when I first met you.
Crazy.
It's 12 years ago.
Yes, it is. So we are now 27 people watching at the moment, and we have a couple of questions. Wir haben auch ein paar Fragen aus Facebook, so we also have some questions from Facebook. So I will start with Maximilian. He asked me in the last stream, but we are run of time. What does topography means to the lane?
Go ahead.
You want me to fill this one?
I'll pinch in if you want me to.
So the best way to explain topography is basically the lane looks flat, but no two lanes are the same. And it's not just from like when the technician says, I dressed them all the same, but they're never going to be the same. The reason is topography. There's going to be points of the lane where, say, the right-hand gutter is more leaning, it leans more towards the center of the lane. And there are other lanes in the same center, even on the same pair, where it leans towards the gutter.
Yep.
And that can happen across the whole lane from left to right, foul line to pins. And so when you see a topography graph that is the 3D version, it's, shall we say, it's made bigger by about 100 times so you can see it. But you look at that and it helps you understand whether you struggle to make the ball hook on one lane, but it's easy to hook it on the other lane. And when you look at the point of the lane on the pattern that you're playing on, where you're throwing the ball, the topography is usually the cause. The topography can make the same lane pattern hook 10 boards on one lane and hook 2 boards on the other lane, and you're throwing it the same.
It's like it's like playing downhill and uphill.
Yeah, and left to right as well.
Yeah.
I think people really underestimate as well how weather can actually affect topography. I think people really underestimate it. Like, I have noticed from day to day, well, actually, you know, one day it can be 26 degrees Celsius and the lanes feel like they hook a ton. Then you turn up the next day and it's like 18, 17, 16 centigrade and the lanes don't hook as much. Like, I think weather does play a big part in it as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the times here at Track Open where the lanes are tough and it's raining outside and the scores go like up extreme?
Super.
Yeah, but then when it's the next day and it's like 26 degrees outside, like the 12 o'clock squad, the 1 o'clock squad, the scores, if maybe 2 people in the whole day might shoot 13-20 or more.
Yep.
That's it, because the lanes have gotten so funky with it being hot. Like the best way to put it, that, as we say, a lot of people underestimate it, is think of, like, just take something simple like a wooden door frame. Like, your door closes perfectly fine in the frame. But in the winter, it seems like it closes really easy, like it always moves, and there's like a little gap between the door and the frame. But in the summer, it sticks.
Yep.
Because the wood obviously shrinks and expands from heat and cold. Take into account that underneath the lanes is all made of some sort of wood, and the synthetic lane is not plastic from top to bottom of the actual surface, it's wood underneath that synthetic.
Yeah.
Then you take all that expansion and contraction in there, and you've got the exact reason why, when you're talking about thousandths of an inch,
Yep.
that will.
We are talking of, I don't know, in a differential 0.00.2, whatever. It's so low numbers in bowling with differential, with RGs, with.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
such a great difference when you have an RG of 255 and 260.
Oh yeah, it's huge difference. Like the difference with intermediate differential, 0.010 is so different to 0.016.
Yeah,
like it's
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's those minute differences from time to time that will really tell you how much topography does play a big part in the game.
Yep.
And it explains a lot because topography's always been there. This is one thing that I'd like to make sure people do understand. Back when before reactive bowling balls, and it was all wood lanes, plastic and urethane balls, and there was a track area on the lanes, like everyone played there, or you knew the center from left to right, all the lanes, what played how. Obviously, back then, there was less bowling balls and less oil patterns to make a difference. So it was all topography. And that's why originally you had to resurface your wood lanes like every year or every 6 months.
To get this straight.
To get them flat so the topography wouldn't take over. And after 2 years of no resurface and high lead lineage in the same spot, it literally looks like a funnel.
Ja. So, ich hoffe, damit ist die Frage beantwortet. Aber Maximilian, ich kann dir versprechen, wir werden dazu noch ein Video machen und das genau erklären. Ich bin da auch schon in Kontakt mit ein paar Leuten. So, Roman Shine, hi. How do you know what layout to use for a certain lane condition? Die Frage, die Roman stellt, woher wissen Sie, welches Layout Sie verwenden sollen für eine bestimmte Bahnkondition? You're whispering.
Just while you were translating, I just said to Rich, this one I'll field to you, seeing as you fielded that one to me.
So, how do you know what layout to use for a certain lane condition?
Well, there's more factors when it comes into that's where that question you was talking about earlier about somebody saying that you had a question about reading a lane graph.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know how flat the lane pattern is. You got to know how much volume the lane pattern's got. You got to know how long it is. I would, if you can, try and find information on those variables first before you even consider laying out a bowling ball. Like, on tour, that's why we drill so many different bowling balls. We see so many different environments. We see so many different volumes. We see so many different variations of flat. But I don't think there's any standard way of drilling out a bowling ball for a certain lane pattern.
That's what I think also. I think the layout is not the most important thing. I think it's more about surface adjustments.
Well,
to a layout.
If I may chime in, the key thing, and I'm sure you appreciate this just as much, Manuel, being a ball driller as well, and I appreciate it a lot being a coach, that when you're trying to figure out what layout will be good for a certain condition, the bowler's natural specs are one of the biggest key determining factors for that. If a bowler's ball roll doesn't suit that condition, then they're going to need a much different layout to, say, their teammate or their friend who also wants to drill a ball, but their specs are like the other side of the spectrum, the other end of the rainbow, and they have to have a completely different layout. But the original guy wants the same layout as his friend because his friend has a good look. It just.
But it's all about
when I was younger.
Yeah, axis rotation, tilt, PAP. When you compare Clemens to me, Clemens with his PAP and the ring finger. So his layout's looking weird.
Yeah. I always remember Clemens's layouts.
But he's rolling it good. So and
that's the thing. That's the thing that the PAP just tells you where you're laying out from. A lot of people think, oh, that guy has 3 over and like 2 inches up.
Yep.
Oh, he's a long way up, so he must spin it a lot. No.
Yep.
You go and measure their roll, and they've got like 2 degrees of tilt.
Yeah, when you
Whereas
see
a guy that's like 5 over and no up or down has got like 30 degrees of tilt. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. When you see my PAP is 5 1/4 and 1/8 up. So and when you have like Clemens, it's like 1 inch right and 2 inch up. So
like
when we
like there, your pin's like there.
if he would use my layout, he would have immediately rolling.
Or it would probably go right.
Yeah. And if I would bowl with him, with his, it will probably flare on the other side.
If you throw
because of that.
Clemens' stuff.
Yeah. So, we have another question from Maximilian hat gefragt. Also Jungs, Mädels und liebe Zuschauer, kurze Frage. Ich hoffe, dass das so passt, wie das der Julian macht. Wenn ihr irgendwelche Fragen habt, schreibt sie einfach in den Chat. Wir gehen Stück für Stück alle Fragen durch. So I'm just explaining if they are okay with Julian's translation, and if they have questions, just put it in. Yeah. At the moment we are 38 people watching. So, hello. So, Maximilian fragt.
Hallo.
Können Sie was sagen über den neuen Golden Jackal, Golden Tank? Can you say something about the Golden Tank?
I don't know if we can speak about it yet. I know it's approved, but I don't know if we can speak about it yet.
You can find it online already.
That's what you can if the details are there.
I think it's there. I think the worldwide release date is soon. We can talk about it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Because worldwide release is in May.
Not yet, but people know about it.
Yeah.
I'll just
DJ Take It played it at World Series.
They made it available for the guys on tour to use back in February. So it was quite a while ago they were able to use it, but they did that specifically. It was one of those early approvals for the tour, but they still didn't have people still didn't know what it was. There was I saw a lot of people online saying, "What's this ball?" You know, people messaging me asking me, "What's the gold thing they're throwing?" Because apparently it's the jackal.
Yeah, it looks like a golden jackal.
Yeah, it looks almost the same. Even you've had it confused at once or twice back here at home.
When we first started throwing it on tour, everyone was like, "Wow, those golden jackals go really straight."
It's pretty weird to use the same color.
Yeah, I mean it is basically identical. Like the actual gold mix is basically identical. Just the golden jackal is a little bit more sheen out the box.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting it's like almost middle of April.
Yeah. The time's going so quick.
Yeah.
But I suppose we can talk about it.
I reckon it shouldn't be a problem.
We can talk about it. Because you would have seen it on.
We'll soon get a message from Brett.
Flow bowling, or people would have seen it on Flow. So, the Desert Tank's actually I really like it. Like it's a weakened down version from the Tank Blitz. I have found sometimes the Tank Blitz, especially when you want to use that type of bowling ball, like a urethane esque kind of shape.
Yep.
I found the covert and the Blitz open up my angles in the front a little bit too much. You know, once the front part of the lane has been beaten up by other urethanes and say similar tanks, I feel like the Desert Tank allows you to stay further right and stay on top of it, because the core is pretty much a non-existent core inside of it.
But it's the same in the Blitz like in this, right?
No, there's two. They're two different. All tanks, all microcell polymer balls have different cores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single one so far has been a different core.
All being different cores.
Okay. I
Yeah,
didn't recognize this.
Yeah, the covert had a really big souped-up core, and I'm not sure where else it's been used. I can't remember. It was like 247055. It was huge.
I think it was 250.
I think
I think it was medium RG, high diff. The covert originally forced angles open really, really big time. Like
250051.
Yeah, there you go. So pretty close. And I felt like for me the only way I could use it truthfully and actually be able to use it properly was really short pins. But the blitz was a little better. It was a little cleaner. It was a little bit more like what it had been advertised as being a step up from urethane, because it's not actually urethane, but it's not as in either. It's something brand new. I can't say much about the desert tank because I've drilled 2, but I drilled them after or just before the lockdown in this country. So I've got 2, but I have no one shots on them.
Okay.
So in terms of how it is on the lane, that's Rich would be the better one to ask about it. Just in terms of what the ball is actually like, I believe it's meant to be stronger in the front but tamer down lane than the blitz.
Yeah, no, the ball will read the front but not like continue as hard. Like it'll get through it, but it won't be such a violent motion. It won't be it won't cover as many boards as the blitz, basically. Like it's not one for say moving away from the friction. Like I would stay in the friction with it.
Okay, I understand.
Like because the core numbers are 257015. Like it doesn't flare much.
Okay. So
I believe it's the same core as in the Thrill.
So yeah.
Really, really low flaring core.
Okay. Ich hoffe, die Frage ist damit beantwortet. I hope the question is answered like this.
If not, they can just ask another question, that's fine.
Ja, genau. Wenn nicht, dann einfach nochmal fragen. Michael, Servus. Rund de la Cruz, hi. Ernst, ich grüße dich, Czarnowski. Gibt es Staff-Spieler-Vorgaben, welche Turniere man auf der Tour spielen muss? This question goes to Richard.
Yeah.
Do you get told by Motiv what kind of tournaments you have to play on tour?
Yes and no. We don't get told we have to bowl a specific tournament. We get told a percentage of tournaments we have to bowl.
Okay.
So, say if you want to take a week off, you can take a week off, but there's a certain percentage that we have to abide by.
Okay. Also Ernst, er muss nicht alle spielen. Also ihm wird nicht gesagt, das muss er spielen, sondern ihm wird gesagt, er muss so und so viel Prozent der Turniere spielen. Alex, ich grüße dich. Wie kann man Bowling für die breite Bevölkerung interessanter gestalten? Wer hat Ideen, Vorschläge? How can you make bowling more popular to the wider range of people? Any ideas?
I've always had one word for this. Well, really 2. And it's introduce gambling.
Yeah, bring money into the game.
Introduce gambling.
I think the closest sport you could probably look at, and again, like bowling, some people insist it's only a game and others say there is a sports side to it, and that those people don't think there's a sports side. But the closest sport that we can probably compare it to in where they were before gambling or being able to bet on something was introduced, which even for the professionals would be hard to, shall we say, rig, is darts.
Yep.
So before Matchroom and those guys, they took it on and made it a big spectacle, and like you've said, you've wanted to come over to us and we all go to the World Championships at the Ali Pali in London.
Yeah.
And whenever, I'm sure anybody watching would be able to say that it looks like an insanely fun night or day even to go and watch the darts. But not knocking anything, I don't see an awful lot of people sometimes watching the actual darts. They're there to have a good time. And that's something that never used to be there. You look at the early videos of Phil Taylor winning the Worlds in 1995 or something. Darts nerds are probably going to tell me that probably wasn't the year he won. But at that time, it was a much smaller venue. There was no, it was people were quiet. There was no noise.
It was essentially in a pub.
Yeah. It's like we bowl every day.
Yeah, exactly. It was basically, it was like a glorified events room that had a bar at the back.
I never look at from this side, as you said, Richard, with gambling. I know that gambling can be important to get money into the sport. I think it's a pretty good entry to get bowling more popular, because when you get gambling in, you get money in. When you get money in, you create players who can live out of that. When you create players who can live, you create stars. When you get stars, I think we are at the moment at a pretty good stage compared to 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
When you see it, 10 years ago, a guy like Fragen couldn't really make a good living out of this. When you see it today...
And it's like one person against another person, say, like, takes quite a long time in regards to, say, like a leg of darts. I think a leg of darts is, it's always, the numbers are always close. Like, it's not like it's, someone gets to 481 and someone's already checking out.
Yep.
Like, with bowling, it can get to a point where
after 6 frames, it's done.
Someone's on the front 6 and someone's gone open, 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 spare, open. You know the guy who has the front 6 is going to win.
Yeah, but that's the same in dart. When he started 180 and you started 60 and 60, you're done.
Yeah, like
I suppose so.
You don't see it as often, but the only thing is that it's always the professional side that's televised, unless you look, and then you've got the BDO would be under that, and then it's basically it's like pub darts. There's probably more to the circuit, but that's what people know, and you don't see it often, but you do see it that like someone's on 241 left, and the person's shooting 8 to take the leg, like.
Yeah. I think it's what I think Miles does it. He plays sometimes for money and stream it. I don't know.
Do that.
Is it Miles Kearney or I don't remember I don't get the name just now.
Oh, was that Callum?
Oh, that was Callum Simmons did it.
Yeah, Callum Simmons, he was it.
Yeah, he did it.
That's a pretty cool idea to make it in a
he hasn't done it. It was pretty good. It was a good idea, but it was that whole thing of it being such a long format they were doing that even if people wanted to put money on it between themselves, they'd just make a bet between each other on their phones and then they'd carry on with their day and find out later. They wouldn't be putting money on it, sitting there waiting for that game to finish.
Well, if I rephrase it, if you can try and bet it frame by frame instead of game by game.
Yep, that can be good.
Or amount of counts less than 9 in a game.
Yeah,
like that sort of bet. Like
lots of variations.
People will watch the whole game then because they need to know.
Yeah.
But the other idea, I'm not taking credit for this. I've just remembered somebody else has mentioned it to me before. But maybe taking like the same idea as cricket. Cricket is a sport because there's a lot of athleticism involved in that, and hand-eye coordination, kind of the same as bowling at the top level. And
I think cricket is not really popular in Germany. I don't know. A lot of guys know the rules here.
Yeah. But
anyways,
the best way, the only point with cricket is that cricket is another game that if you sat and watched bowling on Flow Bowling, if I sat at home and watched Rich Bowler's Squad on Flow Bowling, I'd be there for 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, and it's boring.
Regardless, and it can get boring even if you're watching someone you like. Sorry, especially when they strike as much as him. But but. In terms of like cricket, there is such a big playing field, and the way the game works, it takes a long time. And they introduced 2020, basically shortened games.
Yep.
So they made their sport as much quick fire as they could. The only way I could think about doing it is doing like 5-frame matches.
Yeah.
Quick 5-frame matches, best of 3 or something like that. whatever scoring you want, whether the 5th frame is like the 10th frame now or not, I don't know. But it keeps it quick, and it keeps it kind of interesting because it's harder for someone to run away with it by the end of the game. And you've kind of, when you're in that situation, you'll feel like you've got to be on it. The same as when you get into a 9th, 10th frame roll-off, you've got 2 frames.
Yep.
Like, if you make a bad shot then, that's pretty much everything you've done leading up to that point done.
Yep,
and
that's true.
It's down to that. That's one thing I think we could do, and it would allow for, should we say, longer formats, but they're not actually longer. Like the matches, there'll be more matches, but they're not actually more games. But it would be more exciting to people watching.
Yeah, I think a start would be to get companies like Bet and Win and so inside. And they tried it in Germany a couple of years ago with Firnheim, with the tournament in Firnheim, but they messed it up. So I don't know. We will see. I think especially PBA is on a good way.
Yeah,
for
very
bowling,
good.
and I think also college bowling in the States is getting really good.
College bowling is one thing I always feel gutted that I didn't. Even if it was just for 1 year, just to go out and try and get a degree in the States, just to experience college bowling. I'm so glad I never even thought of it.
And I think we will get back in Europe and in the next 5 years on track. Because we were pretty good with the European Tour. A lot of guys came out of the European Tour. And then it was like when the World Tour coming in, and it's all like, it's getting a little... And I think with restarting the PBA, when I played the first time PBA in 2010, it was totally different to today. It was another world. And I think this is we are on a really good way. So, yeah.
What's different?
I think how they present it in the media, how they write about it. Now they're thinking about to creating stars, and we have a huge star with Jason. We have and this is actually not only a bowling star. Jason Vermont is already on a good way to get a sports star, not only in bowling. And when you see people like Brad and Kyle, they making themselves stars. For Fagan, for example, he never had the chance to get a star. He was a bowling star, but he never had a chance to get enough money out of it to get it. When you see Jesper Svensson, he's getting a star in Europe, and he already is. I don't know how he is in the States, but when you see Martin Larsen, when you see Osku, when you see Jacob Batrov, they are getting stars. And when you see the gap from, I would say, 2004 to 2010, no one was created.
Yeah, it was really difficult. I mean, nobody around the world during those years knew about two-handed bowling. If I remember correctly, I think it might have been around that time.
2006 was the first year.
Yeah, Osku showed up at the US Open show.
Yes.
Playing Walter in the opening match, and that was a while ago. But that was mid 2000s. But like that was still really young. Like people thought it was people thought it was weird, or that it was. They still do, but people would just thought, well, he's just straight out cheating. Like
But I don't think that the situation goes because of two-hand. It's just that's just a regular evolution in the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was around that time frame that people still didn't really know about it.
But the biggest star in this time... Sorry.
That's all right. I was going to say, do you know that Jason's I believe he's only 7 majors away from being the most major winning in any sport ever?
Any sport ever, yeah.
Yeah, I think just Federer's up front.
Federer's at like 20 or 21. Yeah. Belma has 13?
He has 13 now. Who?
Yeah, so you have the star,
Yeah, and he's huge. And but when you see between 2005 and 2010, the biggest star in bowling was Pete Weber and Borderay.
Yeah.
They're already gone because they're not good for the young age.
No, they're the old guard that are still there because they're so good.
And and what the PBA does at the moment, it started with the Fox deal. This all started over. This is huge. And now what they're doing now with everything, with how they advertise it. Also, guys like Brett and Kyle are very, very important to do this. And this impacts the whole world of bowling, in my opinion. So, we go in the chat now. Uwe, guten Abend. Schön, dich zu lesen. Ich hoffe, das klappt so, wie es der Julian macht. Dann, Servus Sandro, schön, dich zu lesen. Oh Mann, das sind ja ganz schön ein paar Nachrichten jetzt. We have a lot of messages, so we have to go through this.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the chat a little bit as we've been going.
Roman says, being in Europe, how often did you guys travel to other countries for tournaments starting out? Also die Frage, I just translated, ist, da ihr aus Europa seid, wie oft reist ihr in andere Länder für Turniere, als sie begonnen haben? So, this is a really funny story. Richard, how do you come to other countries?
How?
Yeah, how does everything started?
How? Well, that's a good question. I
know.
I'm trying. Well, as in like how I started coming. Most of it's because of you.
Yes.
Most of it's because of you. That's how it started. That's it. So we first, because it started like representing England was how it, you you go as a team, stuff like that, and that's when I first met you. Was 08 in Berlin.
And then the connection with Miller.
Yeah,
with Matt Miller.
Yeah, we had the connection there.
Connection with Miller, yeah.
And then we decided you asked me to come over to bowl for your team.
Yes.
And that's how it all started.
So actually,
I think
so too.
I think when he asked me and you and Matt and Steve. And we would decide on which two would go over each time.
Correct.
And then we would keep coming over.
Yeah, because that was back when Steve was falling asleep in the players' area.
Correct. In Schiller Park also.
Because German League was so taxing, like having to be up so early, the travelling to to Germany on the Friday night. Like it's quite tiring. Like,
it was also like that same stop. Stop. I had to tell you about that. You weren't even there. That was me and Steve.
Yeah, I wasn't there. It was Ray and Steve.
Me and Steve were there for that stop in Schiller Park, and it was so funny because you might remember, Manuel, on every right-hand lane. We had to take the high scoreboard chalkboard off because his backswing was so high he'd hit it if we didn't take it off. But he was far enough left on the left lane that he could go around it.
Yeah.
And he fell asleep in the players' area and we moved to the next pair.
Oh, wow.
And they were still finishing, but we'd moved. Manuel just launched his grip sack in the air and it landed straight on his crotch.
Yeah, that was funny. And do you remember in Karlsruhe, I think Steve played, and Benjamin Kubalek.
Karlsruhe.
Yeah. And you were so slow and getting, play in front of me. And I told you after the 5th frame, hey Ray, they're already all gone. We are the last team. You don't have to get them in front of you. They're already ready.
Yeah, I remember
you weren't there.
That. Yeah, I remember that. It was like I was being like proper polite, like every time I was there and someone else, I'm like, oh, go on. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Trying to be polite. And we it took like 20 minutes for me to bowl my frame or something stupid. It was like
crazy.
Yeah.
But how often did you travel actually in Europe or to other countries when you start getting outside England?
A lot, actually. A lot.
I mean, naturally with me being older, I started out going away first, and then Rich joined in later on, and we both first, our first tournament, like actual tournament outside of the UK, was actually the Euro Challenge.
Yeah, Euro Challenge.
Funnily enough,
in Paris,
and what our parents, we had our UK nationals. It was back when it was in Paris.
Paris,
Yep.
yeah.
We had our UK national championships at the weekend, and Rich had a day off from college, and I'd driven down from university, and I took the Monday off as well. And basically, our parents drove us from ridiculous early in the morning, drove to Paris, with the train, and we drove to bowl the 7 p.m.
Monday evening. It was 8 p.m.
Yeah, Monday evening, 8 p.m. squad. It was the first time we'd ever bowled anything European or anything like that, and we bowled the 8 p.m. squad. And funnily enough, that was the year in the mid 2000s where the actual cut, I remember it now, was like 54 over. The pattern was brutal compared to the years after that.
Thank you. I was the bubble man.
Yeah, that year?
Because Clara Guerrero was the cut.
Yes.
54 over and I had 53.
I knew I got it right. My mind kept thinking,
Yes.
is it 54 or was it slightly
54.
more or less? It was in the 50s. I
Yes.
knew it was in the 50s.
And I remember correct, I think she won.
I don't remember.
Clara Guerrero won. She made the cut. She was the cut man or cut girl. And she won the tournament.
Possibly. Could have been. Or was that the year where it was the women fight? It was CDB versus Clara.
CDB versus Clara.
Was it that year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And Joni Helminen played the first squad, shot 13-30, and was first for the whole tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember that.
And the year before, you needed like 200 over. And the year after also.
Yeah, it sounds like the last few years.
So, I will come to the next question. We need to move forward.
Yeah.
Maximilian asked, werden Sie nächstes Jahr wieder Bundesliga spielen? Will you play in German First League next year?
I'll answer for me and Rich answer for him.
I will be PBA schedule dependent.
And I will be at this moment in time. I'm waiting to hear back about what the future is regarding a couple of other things that's not in my control. I'm available, so if I'm able to come back, then yes, I'll definitely be playing.
Okay. So, hallo Regina, schönen Abend und Grüße. Dann Scott Gilbert asks a question, Ray. I want to move away from radical to motive. Which three balls would you drill first? I will translate this. Eine Frage, Ray. Scott möchte von radical weg und möchte zu motive switchen. Und welche drei Bälle würde er als erstes bohren aus dem Motiv Repertoire? So, please.
Well, he'll ask me. You can give your three in a minute.
I will give him my three also. I don't know who Scott Gilbert is, but I have my favorites also.
We know who he is.
We know Scotty. Scotty's from over here. Yeah, what's up, Scott? Hope you're doing all right with isolation. I'd say the first ball you should always drill is basically like if anyone went to Storm. It's pretty much the same idea. You want to drill a Venom Shock. End of discussion. The first ball you drill, if you're switching to Motiv or wanting to see what Motiv balls are like, you drill a Venom Shock. End of story. I won't even need to explain that one. You can take my word for it. The fact it's been on catalogue for so long explains that. For me, I would say if you're going top end, so if we said Venom Shock was like middle end, if you were going top end, I'd say you're probably looking at either an Alpha Jackal or a Jackal Ghost. They're both still on catalogue, so that would be fine. Alpha Jackal's a bit stronger, but really like that ball. And if you're going low end off of that, then I'd say you want to get a Tank Blitz.
Also, haben wir Tank Blitz, Venom Shock, and Jackal, Alpha Jackal.
Alpha Jackal, yeah.
So, Richard?
See, if I'm making a switch, I would say Venom Shock's always in there.
Yes.
Jackal Ghost is the other one. And I would say a Trident Nemesis would be the three, because the Shock's the Shock. It's
just a Venom Shock.
There's no need for it. Like, any explanation.
It's like the people saying about High Road with Storm. Like same
thing.
The Ghost, it's the ASIM, a little bit stronger sort of option.
Yeah, and it's really clean for a solid as well. It's actually quite clean and quite responsive. The Ghost. It
is, but then if you want something that's even more responsive, you go to the Nemesis. Like, Like, I feel like if you want to see the sideways motion that we have, go with the Nemesis. If you want to see a top end all round ball, you go for a Ghost. And then if you want to see the daddy,
you go and see the goat of the Motiv stuff so far. You go Venom Shock.
Yeah.
So I would do 2 Venom Shocks and a Alpha Jackal.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
You could do 1 up, 1 down.
Yeah, you go 1 up, 1 down.
Yeah, and 1 with a little polished, 1 a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't think you'd even need to. Once you've bowled a couple games with it, the lane shine actually is pretty good.
Yeah. I think I have in my arsenal right now, of all the balls that I own, I think I have 5 or 6 Venom Shocks.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I've got 3.
I have 5.
So Lars, ein wunderschönes. I hope, Scott, we answered the question.
If
Lars,
not, send me a message, buddy.
Ja. Lars, beim Dart ist es aber auch sehr laut in der Halle. Wäre das für den Bowling-Profis verkraftbar? So, he said actually the problem, what he sees is that in Dart it's extremely loud. Wouldn't it interrupt the pros, especially on the Pro Tour? Would they get annoyed?
It's true.
Go back and I would say go back and watch any early show, and it's only because I've done this, so I know that guy is the one to look for. Go back and look for any early Chris Barnes show. The early ones, and you'll know it's the early one because he's actually got a little bit of a push away rather than just his hinge. He's got a tiny bit of a push away, then he hinges. That was Chris early on tour, and you'll notice that all the way through, I think even when Parker shot 300 at the Masters, all the way through, from start to finish, everyone's clapping and cheering. There's no break. Like, everyone's clapping and cheering the whole time. And that is very similar to what darts is now, except you would just, in darts, you've got the chanting and the cheering.
I think it's just need to start. I think the tournament in Maine is pretty loud, right?
Yeah, exactly. The team, the league.
And the bowlers say it's the best environment to bowl in. So...
Yeah, so they need to get used to get this.
Yeah, I don't reckon it'd only be distracting if it all of a sudden happened in the middle of a game.
If like, nobody cares.
If the whole show started off everyone making noise, I don't think they'd care.
Yeah. So, Maximilian fragt, was sind Ihre persönlichen Lieblingsspieler? So, Maximilian asks, what are your favorite bowlers?
Well, according to your TV show.
Well, yeah.
That's a funny story, actually.
You go ahead. I've got to think about that one now.
So I can tell you right now, my favourite bowler as I was growing up was Chris Barnes, and the other guy I really looked up to, just kind of like their tenacity, but also they were short, and around everybody I knew, I was short. And still am, was Norm Duke. They were 2 guys. They were 2 guys I really sort of looked up to, because not only were they 2 different sort of styles, but they were both very versatile players. I mean, he'll tell you, and there's a few other people that I know from when I was a kid that'll tell you. I remember one guy, Matt Hann, now lives in Canada. He turned around once when we were representing England, I think you were there, and said, "Oh, Ray's able to throw 1,000 different shots, but he'll only use 3 because he doesn't need the other 900, but he knows how to do them." Because I was just I idolized those guys and wanted to be able to do what they did. So I'd practice everywhere on the lane. I'd try and throw it so many different ways so that I could do that when I needed to, but 99% of the time I only needed 3 or 5 or 10 of the main stuff that I ever did. But they were my favorite guys growing up. It's hard to say. I don't think it's really changed really in the back of my head. I don't think it's changed. It'd just be who I want to watch at that time would be who my favorite player is, but he's pretty close.
So now my perception has changed of them. Like, one of my favorite players would be anyone who throws it, anyone who throws it with their thumb in it, who can still compete with the 2-handed era. You got to move it, Ray.
That's good. Keep it that
Oh, perfect. So like Bill O'Neill, EJ Tackett, you know,
EJ's one, yeah, definitely.
what those two guys stick out in my mind. Like the guys that could still compete with their thumb in it in the two-handed era of bowling right now.
Okay.
So
that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
So we have Christopher from Salzburg, from Salzburg, Austria. Hello and greets from Salzburg. I would like to thank Ray for his tip at Track Open 2018, where he told me to put a Dexter heel to my shoe so I can remove the problem slip at the line. Since then my approach is straight at the foul line and I feel really safe. He removed one of the biggest problems in my game. Thanks for that. So I think you told him to use a H1 or something.
I think if I remember correctly, I think I was bowling with Chris. I think I'm usually got a good memory, so I do apologise, Chris, if Entschuldigung, Chris, if nicht richtig. But yeah, it was. I think he was wearing one of the heels where it was like the red felt, or it was the flat, just plain white 5. I think I mentioned to him to use one of the H's, the lower numbers, because he just kept slipping around at the foul line. And that was a time, I think it was actually quite cold, funnily enough. And the approaches were a little slippery that day. And he just kept slipping. I just said to him when we were playing, you'd do well to have more rubber on your foot. Try this heel or this heel. If you don't have it, go get it, because trust me, it will help. Yeah, I'm glad it helped, Chris. I'm glad it helped.
So I will move forward. Hi, Sandro. Sandro Brandt is also here. So I will move forward to the first question from the Facebook post. Let me check this a little quick. So, how to read and understand the oil pattern. So actually, I already did a video for this. Julian, wenn du möchtest, könntest du das kurz verlinken hier in den Chat. I already did a video to how to read a oil pattern and an oil graph with the oil length -31, with the exit point, with the 2:2 ratio, with the everything inside. So this is pretty much explained. Also das wird dort sehr explizit und ausgiebig erklärt. So, do you have a tip for the bowlers who understand this easier? When they get a lane pattern and how to start?
I'll do it more from a coach's perspective, if you will, and Rich can sort of say it from a bowling perspective. Like he bowls on tour, I don't. So, but the best way to look at understanding an oil pattern is knowing that every bit of information that you will get is part of the equation. It's not this and this and then you're good. Like there's so much more to it. I'm sure everybody watching has had a time where they've played, whether it be league or whether it be tournaments, or for their country, where they will bowl on the same pattern in a different center, and the best way to attack them is completely different.
Yep.
Like really different. Because essentially the one thing I'd want anyone to take from this, from my side, is that the graph will tell you what's put on the lane by the machine. That there's more to it. We elaborated on it earlier with topography.
Yep.
There's other things such as the climate, but also the lane surface.
But actually, the pattern on the paper gives you an idea, but it's not a plan.
Yeah. Exactly, because technically speaking, as soon as one person throws a shot down the lane in practice, it's no longer that pattern.
Yep.
Because you're pulling oil off the lane or you're moving it, so it's no longer the same. And just to finish, any bowler knows that if you bowl on wood, or you bowl, say, in Dream Bowl on Brunswick synthetic, or you bowl on AMF synthetic.
I just remember Scott Banks. How many lilies I had.
Oh, 2. Oh my god. No, oh my god.
Yeah.
I
Do you
remember that
remember
now.
this?
I remember when he came to Leeds. Oh my god. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I remember that.
Someone couldn't get their ball to do this. Their ball always did this,
Oh.
Yeah.
and so it never. And he was always going. It was like, yeah, that would be to the pocket, but he was forced this way. So it was like the ball was going backwards into the pocket every shot.
Was that the year I destroyed qualifying?
I think it was. I think it was the year you destroyed qualifying.
Yeah.
And you were in the. You got to the final. You got to the round robin.
Yeah.
And it was me. I think it was me, Manuel, and Corky.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the trios.
And I remember the breakfast.
I still remember Corky's laugh both times you did.
Yeah, thank you. That was so
Yeah,
weird.
like that, the lane surface plays a big part in understanding it as well. But as you say, yeah, playing the lane graph or the information you can get is just one part of it, and then everything you do is also a part of that with what ball, how you bowl. So really, the best thing to do is to learn is like get as much info as you can, and then bowl on the pattern, but don't use that information to start with.
Yep.
And it will sound backwards, but when you don't bowl based on the information, you bowl on what you see, and then you have the information that you would use, you can learn when it's like, when that comes up, that I feel for me, it's like this. Like when I bowl on wood, this part of the lane always hooks, or when I bowl on this lane surface, I find it's always slicker than that pattern on another surface. And that's how you learn what information means what.
It's the same when I bowl, for example, and I play on an AMF surface. I'm normally much better on the AMF surface than on a Pro Am lane. Because my game is helping with that. I don't really know why, but it's that way.
Yeah. Sometimes it's mostly down to what you learnt to bowl on as you progressed in bowling. If you always bowled in a Brunswick centre, then you might struggle on wood because you're used to the lanes being slick. But if you grew up bowling on wood and you haven't really changed, you've just got newer equipment, you'll probably like AMFs, or you'll know how to handle wood lanes. But when they get really slick, your game might not have developed enough.
Yeah. So I come to the next question that's already pretty much answered what we can do to make bowling more interesting in Europe. So we already got to this question with the gambling thing.
Yeah, and the short
So
format.
the third question in Facebook was, hat Bowling eine Chance, olympisch zu werden? Has bowling the chance to get Olympic?
I think this is where we differ quite a bit on this.
We
differ because I believe it does,
and I don't think it has a chance.
and Rich doesn't think it has a chance to. I mean, I think it does, but the problem with it is that the perception of the sport plays a big role in what's gonna get in.
I'm not against trying to get it in there. I want to get it in there, but I just don't think it will.
Yeah, we talk about this in bowling community since '88.
Yeah, when it was a demonstration sport.
Yeah, so it's a long time. It's pretty much 30 years now. I think it happens or it happens not. I don't think we can force it to go into the Olympics.
And even if there was a way to force it, it won't be very good because it won't look good on TV when people are watching it at home and they go, oh, there's no other sport I like, but I know some friends that bowl, so screw it, I'll watch the bowling.
Yeah.
And there's like 20 people in the crowd.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that's not going to go well. So, I think it's a lot down to the public perception of the sport. And honestly, I felt like Japan was our closest and best chance in recent memory.
Yep.
Because they have their own pro tour in Japan.
Yep, it's pretty big there.
Yeah, and we missed out. We were on the final shortlist, I think, of 6 sports, 8 sports, and only 3 would get selected, and we weren't selected. And that, to me, that was a big kick in the gut to me, because I've always thought like it could get into the Olympics, even if I never got a chance to play in the Olympics. To have bowling in there, then I wouldn't care. But and then everything else, if there was a chance, it's icing on the cake. But for me, I felt like that when we didn't get in, that was a big swift kick in the gut, because I thought if we can't get in where they've got a pro tour, then we've got a lot of work to do to get in some places that aren't going to have anything like that. So I think it's a lot down to the perception of the sport, and if that changes in the next 10 years, I don't see why not.
Okay. So there's one other question that somebody asked me via WhatsApp. So here, I know that your bowling center, Airport Bowling, is transformed from regular pin setter to pin setters with strings.
Correct.
How does it affect your bowling training, and what do you think about this whole string movement? Is it will bowling change into that or not? So I will now tell in German. Also die Frage, die mir gestellt wurde, ist, hat sich euer Training verändert nach dem Umbau Ihres Bowling Centers in London von normalen Pinsettern auf Schnürbahnen? Und was glauben Sie, wie sich der Bowlingsport im Sinne von Schnürbahn entwickeln wird? So, your turn.
Yeah, I actually feel like the bowling centers are actually going to, obviously they're going to benefit from all this, because obviously having string pin setters is cheaper to maintain. They're easier to maintain. You don't need as much staff to look after the machines. But in regards to bowling and us bowlers ourselves, I don't really see. I see a small difference, but not a big enough difference to really affect what I'm doing. Most of the time, I'm more interested on how I'm throwing it physically when it comes to training.
But do you see the PBA going onto string pins?
Not a chance. I think it's impossible. It's not impossible. I don't think it ever will.
Because there were rumors that the USBC will approve string centers for USBC events.
The difference is, though, the PBA and the USBC have different approvals.
Yeah, I understand that, but when it comes to USBC, the way to the PBA is not far.
I don't think. I think it's a lot further than people think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I just think the characteristics of what the pins are doing is different. And I actually think this is another reason why I think bowling won't get into the Olympics is luck does get involved more.
Oh,
with,
Jesus.
With strings, even more. Because it depends on how the string wraps around a certain other pin and whether it's going to get knocked over.
I can give you a prime example just quickly. We've learned with our league. I run a scratch league on sport conditions at Airport, and it's the only scratch league, and it's only small, 8 people bowling singles. You can actually see now that there are the guys in the league they'll go half pocket and they'll leave a flat 10.
Yep.
But you know that they're looking to see what happens with the strings, because they've learned that when they have that sort of hit, the strings can actually make it a strike. And you see people waiting to see if it's going to go. And the prime example of why I don't think it will go anywhere near things like the PBA or anything like seriously competitive like World Bowling in terms of championships is if you wrap 10, like really fast ring 10, 6 guys flying around the 10, guaranteed that will always stay as a 10 pin, always. But a flat 10 where the pin goes in the gutter, because of how the pit is constructed, which people who have seen your machine videos will understand, because of how it's constructed, the pin can actually go from the flat gutter in the side into the pit, and because it's angled, it can slide further into the pit, and then the string pulls the 10 pin over.
Yep.
So a flat 10 actually becomes a strike when it should never be a strike. It should always be 9. But a wrap 10 that should always be 9 but seems more like it has a chance to strike never strikes, ever. And that's just on first balls. We're not even getting into sparing the 2-8. Or
I think
washouts.
also a reason why I'm getting back to the question before with the Olympics. Because I think it's not getting Olympic because the guy who makes the lanes decides who win. That's my point. I think the Kegel was on the way to have a fixed pattern on the lanes without movement. I heard about this. but I don't know if they ever get it. But that's my point why it's not getting Olympic at the moment.
That'd be interesting. Lane order that never moves.
Yeah, but it's standing.
I think that's what terrain oil is meant to be like, trying to go towards. It doesn't obviously not move, but I think that's the idea.
Yeah,
and that's what they're trying to get to.
Yeah, maybe. And then you have the same situation before every shot. But then you need to figure it out one time. The problem then is the ball market implodes because you don't need that many balls anymore.
Yeah, you'll just need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, one or two, whatever, because the lane doesn't change.
But then all it comes down to is going to be topography again. And then it's basically a modern version of going back to the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. So actually, you think for your practice-wise, the string pins doesn't change anything?
No, because I'm more focused on physical. So when it comes to training, more like how I feel like I'm throwing it and small bits of ball motion. And depending on whether we bowl on a pattern or not, like if we do bowl on a pattern, I will tend to look at more of the ball motion.
And if you watch the ball go through the pins, it doesn't go through the pins any different. The pin action might be different, but the ball doesn't go through the pins different. So if you're looking past the pocket to where the ball goes off the deck, that's always going to be the same as if it's free fall. So if that's what you're using to determine if it was good or not, then there is no difference.
Yeah, just focus your eyes on the ball and forget about the pins even exist. And you know, for me personally, it's no real change.
So I hope this answers all the questions. Maximilian says, what are your goals for the future and what are your goals for bowling?
Well, my goals for the future, I already achieved one of my goals for the future last September as I got married. And so just in general for life, it's, you know, I'll look to start a family at some point in the next 5 to 10 years, definitely. You know, and settle down, everything's settled, and just basically be happy. That's what I want to be, regardless of what I'm doing.
I think it was goals in bowling.
But no, he said that and then bowling.
What are your goals and what are your goals in bowling?
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, so even when you say English, he doesn't understand, right?
Yeah, willst du lieber
Deutsch? Du verstehst nicht. Du verstehst nicht.
It's in German, I wouldn't even,
Oh, yeah, I could say a word that you understand, but I will not.
No, not in this scenario.
No.
Maybe off stream.
Yes.
But my goals bowling wise, pretty much everything that I set as a goal after trying to win an EBT title is still the same. So I still want to get on, you know, make a match play round on tour, make a TV show, win a title, you know, get that illustrious banner. And then if I do get to that, that's the ultimate goal at the moment. If I get to that, then you're looking at, oh, can I win a major or something like that? But my main goal, the most immediate goal, is to get back out onto the tournament scene again with the EBTs, get back out to the tour again, and just, you know, just try and do as well as I can do, and the goal is to win a title eventually.
I'm kind of probably I'm more leaning towards I want to kind of like get my own place.
Okay.
That's one of my main goals. I want to move. I want to get my own place. And I also just want to stay like more mentally and happy, like keep my fitness levels high. I just want to like have a general happy, enthusiastic life. Like, you know, don't make anything too complicated. Like, keep traveling, keep going, doing what I'm doing. Like, don't let so many things affect me. You know, just small goals like that. Just try and stay happy, basically. Mm. But in regards to bowling wise, I want to make TV again. Like, that was so fun. Like,
it was just a wiper one time, right?
Yeah, Shark.
So you're 1/1.
I technically
actually televised shows, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I made 2 flow bowling like stream shows.
Okay.
That that wasn't TV. That was internet streaming.
Yeah, but it was Step by the Finals.
Yeah,
so. But
I want to make TV again. TV's fun. Like, it's unexplainable how fun it is. Like,
how nervous you were?
Super. Like,
was it hot?
It was warm. It was really hot.
And you think that's in the stadium as well. The roof,
yeah.
the roof is like a mile high, so
it was warm. Like, yeah, but it's unexplainable. Like, I got so nervous that I was so focused on doing one thing. That's all I thought about.
And that's what they tell you should do on tour.
Yeah. Like,
so it's perfect.
Yeah, like I got so nervous, I focused on one thing and just said to myself, focus on that.
Okay.
And that was literally roll the ball as over my left toe as much as I could.
Okay, that's good.
And that's all I did for the whole TV show.
And you won.
It seemed to work.
And you won.
Does the blue oil affect you?
Do you know what? It's been such a while now.
I bet it didn't as much as other people because you target the foul line.
Yeah, because I target the foul line, so it didn't really like. I don't look at the lane, like
you only target the
as I'm throwing a shot. Like when I'm setting up, I look at the lane, and then as soon as I'm ready to go, I look at the foul line and aim at the foul line. So the blue oil doesn't really.
It's no difference.
It's nothing to me unless they change the color of the approach. Like.
And even then, it's always static. So
yeah.
So we got another question in. We are ready with the goals, right?
Yeah, that was
everything. Pretty much. Yeah. We just want to be happy.
Yeah. Rund de la Cruz sagt, was sagt das Grid Polish beim Boxfinish aus? Der Harold Pearl ist der Polished mit 1500 Grid. What says the Grid Polish in the box finish? The Harold Pearl is 1500 grid with polish. What does it mean, the 1500?
So the 1500 is basically the top coat of surface before the polish is applied. Is basically the way to put it.
So it's the last surface made before the polish.
Yeah, last Abralon pad that hits the ball, basically.
Yeah, it's the last number of Abralon pad that hits the ball, or sandpaper that hits the ball before the polish is applied. So, you know, I remember doing something wacky when I was a kid before I understood most of this, and I did 500 in polish. And, you know, like, you can do that. There's nothing stopping you doing it. It just looks funny. Whereas, like, you can have
you can have the scratches.
yeah. You just see all these scratches on the ball, and all the ball looks like a snow tire. Like, just okay, whatever. It might roll funny. But like, say 3000. Sometimes, like, say 1000 with polish, and 3000 wet, like not just dry, like as you would do with hand, like with water. Sometimes you can make them come out look exactly the same. But I've actually noticed a major difference in how they roll if you take an Abralon pad and just do a decent amount of pressure with water at higher numbers instead of polish. And I've noticed that the polish, it does go longer, but I find it struggles to back end as much for me. I don't like to use polish unless someone actually asks me or tells me that they want it. Like, otherwise, I'll go with lots of pressure and high numbers with water.
Yeah. And by the way, to all the viewers that watch this, please subscribe to the channel if you want, and leave a comment and a like at the end when the video is on YouTube. There is another question. Bedeutet das, dass der Ball mehr Öl aufnehmen kann und mehr Grip aufbauen kann, da die Spitzen der Oberfläche höher sind? Does it mean with the 1500 that the lower the number, that the ball can get more oil into the ball and get more grip on the lane with this with the edges more higher?
Yeah.
Microscopic wise.
With the cover stock looking more peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
It's not down to the surface as to how much oil the ball will soak in. That's one thing. That's the chemical makeup of the ball. Because if you take say Motiv wise, you take an Alpha Jackal and a Thrill, like we're talking the opposite ends of the spectrum, and you put 360 grit on both of them, I guarantee you the Alpha Jackal will soak up more oil because it will soak it up faster.
Because of
soak up more.
But that's more because of the material that's used.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
it's not because of the finish. It's like when you use a stone and you use a wood.
Mm-hmm.
It soaks differently.
The water just flies off the stone, or it takes forever, but wood it will soak in.
Yeah,
and it's that's what I mean, is that if you put the same surface on different balls, how much oil it will soak in, how much of a sponge it is not down to the surface, but the surface basically brings your break point, or the point the ball slows down to start hooking, closer to you with the lower the number.
Yep.
That's the way I always look at it. So if the ball comes out the box 1500 and you feel it's not going long enough, don't go straight to polish. Like, go 2000, 3000, somewhere in there, and then if it's still not enough, then go polish. Or go the other way if it's not early enough. And that kind of answers that question with oil patterns as well earlier on with surface.
That's where those microcell polymer balls come into play. Like, they're the in-between of the stone and the wood.
Yep.
Like, the microcell polymer, like, it will soak in, but
it just takes longer.
Like half the time of the stone, but like not as much as the wood. It takes less time than the wood. It's like it's that exact in between.
The best way to describe MCP, microcell polymer, that I've used, and I haven't had anyone yet say it makes no sense, is when you look at oil absorption. So as we were saying, how much of a sponge is the ball? You have urethane at this end of the spectrum that doesn't soak oil. It's like plastic. It's just too hard. It just sits on the ball. Yeah. And you've got resin, where it soaks in like a sponge. Like, you throw the ball, it comes back, and half the track is gone already.
And then you've got
MCP is like well, it's not even in the middle. Yeah, MCP is like here.
Like there, yeah.
It's like right there.
What is MCP?
Microcell polymer.
Well, what is it?
Yeah.
As in, like, actually, what is it?
Yeah.
It's a different cover stock formulation.
Yeah.
Who uses it?
Motiv.
Motiv.
Okay.
We're the only ones that have got it, because I believe it is basically I don't know if it's a patent with us yet.
I don't know.
Or a trade. I think it's it might be a trademark with us. There might be the name. But yeah, it's basically, if you were to say there's 10 steps of oil absorption, 1 is urethane and 10 is reactive resin.
Like 3.
It's going to be at like 3. So it does soak up oil, but at a fraction of the rate that reactive resin does. So it has a urethane-like shape, which is why you don't see them do too much. Like, they're not too violent, and they're quite early reading, but they don't have enough resin reaction in them to downlane. So you get a lot of urethane motion, but because it soaks up oil, they're earlier than urethane. So it's like a step up from urethane, if you will.
Yeah. Juan de la Cruz asks, bedeutet das, dass er bei höherem Gridwert der Ball länger läuft? Ja, das ist korrekt, das sage ich dir jetzt schon, aber ich frage die Frage trotzdem. Does it mean the higher the number of the grid under the polish that is, the longer the ball goes straight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it increases the skid distance.
Yes. It's pretty much the lower the number, the earlier the roll, the less backhand you have. The higher the number, the longer the ball goes straight, the more hook you get in the backhand.
Yeah, the more in the backhand, and that's if the ball starts hooking.
Yeah, if not, then then it hooks when it comes back. The ball
When will you raise the weight? That's another one that I found funny.
Yeah, that was. I remember that. I asked you this, right?
So yeah, I'm impressed, Manuel. It's not surface this stream.
Yeah, I learned.
Because you thought it was surface, like piss,
like FISS, not S.
Like piss.
Surface, it's surface. Yeah.
That was an old story. Nobody wants to know this. Bruno Stinson fragt, how come some bowlers have a follow-through left besides of their head as a right-hander, and do you recommend it? I will translate the question. Fragt, warum die Weiterführung des Arms manchmal links vom Kopf sich befindet als Rechtshänder und ob sie das unterstützen würde. So, the follow-through, a
lot of top-end players, especially, and tournament players, is if you actually watch a video of just their swing, So regardless of where the follow through goes in relation to something, just look at the swing and the follow through. Your number is that in order for people to get their hand more on the inside of the ball, get the ball closer to their body at release, they have to have more lateral spine tilt. They have to have their drop shoulder, if you will, which if you lean over to the right, your head goes that way as well, because we're all interconnected. So if your swing goes up in line with your head and comes down going left, so it swings inside for you to get real close and tight to the body, and then you swing out in line with your target, but your body's leant over in order for you to get your hip out the way and get on top of the ball, then your swing and follow through will go straight. So it'll go straight, but I'm leant this way. So my follow through is actually straight, but because of where my body is tilted, it looks like it's left of the head, which it is left of the head. But the way I prefer to look at it is, watch the videos that you've seen that and ask yourself, is the follow through left of the head, or is your head right of the follow through?
Do you know who does it the most? Who I've watched do it the most? Who does it every shot, not every other shot? Is Sam Cooley. He does it every shot. His follow through sort of goes that way, and then his swing back that everyone does goes out. Like I've always found that one interesting to watch. Yeah.
But that's the way I prefer to look at it. Is that's sort of the explanation. But if you re-watch any video where you've seen someone from the back and said, why is their follow through going left of the head? If you look at it, watch it back again and say, is the swing left of their head?
Yeah, it's because
of the follow through, or is your head right of the release and follow through?
Yeah, that's the main reason.
90% of the time, it's the head is right of the release, not the swing's going left.
Ja. Wunderler Gruß. Storm unterscheidet ja auch zwischen Polish und Abralon. Ja, beim Abralon ist praktisch geschliffen ohne Polish. Und beim Polish ist nach dem Schliff noch ein Polish drauf. Das ist der Grund, warum das so unterschieden wird. Das heißt, Abralon bedeutet, dass der Ball matt ist. Und Polish bedeutet, dass der Ball poliert ist. Billy Connor sagt, howdy fellas, I hope everyone is safe and healthy. I hope to see you soon, Richie.
Yeah, he's a guy who he's a mechanic who works in Columbus, Ohio, in one of the bowling centers where I went and practiced.
It's not Wayne's, is it?
No, Capri Lanes in Columbus, Ohio. He works there. He's a real cool dude. Yeah.
So, hello,
and
Billy.
Thanks, Billy, because you've shared the link. We've got this notification. Thanks, buddy. Hope you're doing all right.
So, dann Uno können wir beim nächsten Mal ausprobieren, korrekt, zusammen mit Team Melnix. So, we don't have any questions left at the moment, but do you want to tell the people something you want to share or whatever you want? Now it's your
open floor.
Some new releases that just come out.
Yeah, because they're all being released in May. I believe because we've mentioned about the Desert Tank.
Record Flight.
Yeah, they've got some new releases that are out at the moment that have just come out that are pretty good motive wise. Obviously the Nemesis come out at the start of this year, which we've already mentioned that ball. But another really good one, which goes towards the Venom Shock, which we mentioned earlier, is the Ripcord Flight. It's basically an upgrade to the original Ripcord, solid cover, and the best way to describe it in terms of its shape, and we've both agreed on this one when throwing the ball, is it's basically a stronger Venom Shock. So if you get a Venom Shock and you like that shape, you like that ball, but you want something like that for a bit more juice, a bit more oil, or you want it in addition to the MCP line, the tanks, or the tank line, that'll be a really good complement to those that want something early, urethane-like, but essentially isn't urethane, if you will. If they want to stay to the right, or anyone with a really high rev rate or low ball speed, the Desert Tank would be another great ball to go to if they find that things like, say, a Thrill is uncontrollable for them because it's too clean.
Yep.
Like those sorts of balls are really good. So we do recommend taking a look at those. If you're looking at getting a ball after this whole isolation thing finishes and supporting your local pro shops and just any pro shop, then definitely take a look into one of those. You won't be disappointed.
www.meinbowlingshop.de.
Yeah, use them.
Especially if you're in the Munich area. Get yourself around to EMAX.
Yeah. We are different. Maxi, zu deiner komme ich gleich. Juan de la Cruz, gilt die Regel minus 31 auch für zwei Hände? The question he asked is the oil length minus 31 also work for two-handers, and the answer pretty much is it's a mathematical thing to get 7 degrees in the pocket, right?
Yeah, no matter what
referee. The way I look at pattern length minus 31, there's two common things that people get wrong with this. I find
it's not the break point; it's the exit.
Exactly,
point.
It's when the ball leaves the pattern.
Yeah.
So it might seem like it's too far left, but the ball doesn't necessarily exit the pattern and hook at the exact same time.
Yep.
But there is also the case that the ball can be hooking before it gets to the end of the pattern in some cases. So, it's not the actual break point, it's the exit point. The reason you might not think it would work for two-handers is two-handers are usually further left and they're getting it back from further right. Just look at it this way. One-hander's getting to there, to this point.
Yep.
Two-handers going from here, they're going at it this way.
Yep.
When it goes out of it, it's going to go further to the right.
Yep.
It's just going to hook it back a bit more. So it looks like it's different, but it's the same exit point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the second point is it's only a guide. It's not,
like the pattern graph.
That's 38 feet, so I have to get to 7.
No.
Not really.
You feel
it's a good starting point to read the lane from.
Yeah, to get a direction.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not the law. It's a direction.
No.
There is no law.
You could throw it dead straight at the head pin on everything and strike,
So there's a question
if that's law, then someone tell Chinese Taipei.
There's a question from Maximilian an Richard to Richard. Wie kann man am besten trainieren, unterm Ball zu bleiben? How can you practice the best to stay under the ball?
To stay under the ball?
To stay behind the ball.
And to stay behind it?
Yeah, behind it.
Like...
my English is not so good, but my German is much better.
Yeah.
Is this something he asks me?
The best way I can think about it is I like the whole the drill that I first saw on YouTube by Norm Duke in regards to what he did was you just kneel at the foul line. You go down on one knee, say you're going to propose to, I don't know, some girl or whatever. Just say you go down on one knee and you practice literally throwing the ball at the 5-pin with your thumb. So literally you kneel down at the foul line and you roll the ball straight towards the 5-pin. Like you do that constantly for, I don't know, 5-10 shots, and then try and do 1 foot approach and then go and do it like 5 foot approaches and then go and do it again for 5-10 times. Like I like that I like that drill.
Okay.
Like, it's one good way of doing it. Anyone who's struggling to stay behind the ball long enough, like they're getting their hand around it early, you've got that drill. If you do that in conjunction with, say, if you're comfortable with foul line and slide drills, just literally, even if you can't do it to start with, keep sticking with it, and I guarantee you will. But just try throwing a backup ball.
Yeah, backup. Yeah, that's another one.
It's interesting. It's interesting to find.
You can do a backup with that drill. You can do backup or rolling it forward. Just try and get that wrist to feel like it wants to back up the bowling ball, like get into.
What I told the people in the last stream is the problem often is not the release at all, to stay under the behind the ball. The problem is that their swing direction is so bad behind the back that it's not even possible to stay behind the ball.
It's a form of muscle memory you have to change.
Yes, and that's pretty much the way you should approach it. Watch on your swing, and then you see if this is good in a good direction. Then you can start working on the release, because if you get in the wrong position, you can practice as long as you want.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to replicate it.
We're just starting from that. We're just starting from the foul line, whereas you're saying start trying to do it from here.
Well, the way is like, it's the two different ways of answering the question.
There's no wrong answer to it there.
The best way I'd look at it is prerequisite part of the chain links to the next one. So if your third step in a 5-step approach has got 4 or 5 things wrong with it, and it only happens in that step, and you're looking at, my timing's always late at the foul line, and you're trying to fix it at the foul line with all of these drills, and you're not changing what's actually causing it because that's the part of the chain that's going off course, then you're beating your head against the wall. You need to fix the problem, not the symptom.
Yep. So we have we're doing 2 more questions now, and then we are pretty much done we are already talking.
I'll tell you what, Manuel, we probably could finish with one thing that Julian actually put in, because it wasn't a question, but it was one that I saw Julian put in. He asked about the funniest story of our time on tour, so we could probably do the questions and finish up with the funny stories.
Yeah. Where you read it? I don't read it.
It was above Maximilian's questions.
Yeah, funniest stories, yeah.
Because it was in English as well.
Yeah. So we're starting with Bruno Stinson. How do you practice working the inside part of the ball?
So that was what we just answered?
Yeah,
yes,
so
that's pretty much what we just answered.
Pretty much what we did there.
Juan de la Cruz, what is your opinion about online coaching?
In this climate, it's the only coaching. My opinion on online coaching a lot of the time is there's no problem with online coaching. The issue comes in being able to deliver the information and the requirements to the student in a way that is going to be conducive to them being able to pick up what they need to. They can send you the video, and you can analyze it, and you can determine everything that you need. You can determine everything you need to know. But then if, say, you weren't then able to have a Skype call or a Zoom call with them while they're at the bowling center and help them whilst they're trying to do what you've suggested they should try and work on, and sort of guide them the same way you would if you were there, then essentially I personally don't feel that's a very good thing to do, because not everybody learns the same way. If someone sent a video to me and then I sent them back 3 things to work on and just sent them a text or an email,
difficult.
It's not good, because if that will work for one of 3 types of people.
Yeah,
and if you're not that one type of person, you're screwed.
Yeah, you need to show them.
You can show them, encourage them on how to do it with like drills. So you take just that part of their game so they can get the feeling right, because they might be tactile, visual, and then you've got the other type, which is the person that finds it better when they write it down. Yeah. And so that method will only work for one of 3 types of people. That to me is not effective enough.
Yep.
So I mean, that's my opinion on it. Is it's not a bad thing, but how the analysis and coaching after that is delivered to the student is the key thing.
Yeah. So, Richard, what is the funniest thing ever happened in bowling for you?
Oh, as in stories? As in like a story?
Yes.
God, I feel like we're going to say these. We're going to come off the stream, and then we're going to say to each other, "What about this time?" Oh no!
I reckon mine and yours might be the same one.
I would say when we drive from Munich to Leipzig for about 20 hours, because we have to stop every 2 kilometers because you throw up all the time.
I felt so bad that day. Oh my god!
Yeah, can you imagine how we feel?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Like, you were the guys driving.
That's one story.
That's one time. We actually said about that last night.
Yes.
Yeah, we did last night. Yeah. Do you know what? My funniest story
Got to try and keep these PG as well. Can't tell anything too rude.
It had to be San Marino.
Beep.
You remember? I was sharing a room with Ray and my girlfriend Katie.
Oh, yes. I hope these guys don't mind that we're going to say this story.
And so we were staying in a hotel about a 5-minute drive up the hill in San Marino, and we'd finished the late squad. Everything had all.
On Thursday.
It was the Friday because.
Was it?
Yeah, because Fran was like, I'm going to take a day off. So Fran.
Oh, because that's
Fran
right.
now started drinking
at the centre.
At the centre, all of Friday, pretty much. He was drinking, and he was rooming with Paul Moore,
who came with us to the event.
Came with us to the event. So, me, Ray, and Katie, and Paul all decided to go back a little early because I think Paul was bowling and you were bowling.
We were going to bowl the morning.
I think I had already made the number. So we go up.
I was struggling like hell.
So Friday night. We were back at the hotel and it's like 11 p.m. and we hear this banging on our door. It's like we're like, what the fuck is that? Oh, sorry.
What the hell is that?
What is that?
Paul's in the room chatting with us at that time,
and all we hear is, "Let me in, let me in."
that reminds me on WWE. Let me in.
Yeah. Well, basically, we had an early fiend at the door.
So we open the door and it's Fran, and Fran's like hammer drunk, like
he's swaying, he's slurring, everything.
And there's this bottle of water on the side, and he picks it up and he just throws it at me, and I'm lying in bed, and it explodes.
It was closed at the time.
And I get covered in water. Katie's next to me, and she's like, ah! And Fran turns around, and he's like, do you want the people's elbow?
No. I'll do this bit. This bit was no jokes. So we were all chatting, and then Paul was like, "Oh, can I go back to the room?" Because like Paul was going to go and try and go to sleep, and Fran had the key, and he just kept stopping Paul from being able to get the key because he's pissed and he finds it funny. So in the end, Fran says something to him, I think in Afrikaans.
Afrikaans, yeah.
And he says something to him in that, and then we're all looking at him, and Fran goes, "What did I say?" And Paul basically said, "Sounded like you said, do I want the people's elbow?" And Fran literally stood there and went, "Would you like the people's elbow?" Like in his accent. And we all just creased up laughing. It was so funny.
It was such a weird experience. Like,
I can imagine Paul staying there, get pissed, and Fran is like the coloss from somewhere, and it's pretty much a funny situation.
It was kind of like it was like Goliath walking in on David, like
a drunk Goliath walking in on David walking in on a David that is literally like, because of this, I am not going to smile.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, there are so many stories. I remember when your dad and your mom driving to Munich with you because of something gets...
No, it was...
that was...
Frankfurt.
Mannheim.
Yeah, I was in a cast. I'd broken my foot.
Yeah, no, something happens and you cannot fly it, and
it was snowing.
The one in Mannheim was when Dad drove with us because it was snowing, and we found out, like, we finished our jobs at like 5 p.m. UK time. Our flight was meant to be at 7:30, and they cancelled it, and we only found out when we got home. And we were like, crap, how do we get to Germany? And we ended up driving and getting to the hotel at like
4 a.m.
It was like 2 a.m, something like that. It wasn't that late. And then we had to drive back, and it had snowed in Germany over the weekend while we were there. So we had to drive back through Germany, through France, to get to the tunnel in snow. And then the Ludwigshafen one, when you were in a cast, was after the ECC. When you won a silver medal, and in Kurt Angle sort of esque, with a broken freaking foot.
I remember that.
Yeah, you couldn't play, and we played Kegeln downstairs, and you threw one off the
lane.
Oh, was it?
Off my crutch.
Off the crutch. You threw a shot off the crutch.
So, I think we're pretty much done for today. First, I really appreciate that you take time for us to talk. And
it's no problem.
To all the viewers, if you want to subscribe to our channel, you can do this anytime. We have Ball Reviews, News and Streams. Natürlich könnt ihr gerne unseren Kanal abonnieren. And I hope we see us soon in live.
Yeah, and, me too.
Yeah.
And it's been too long now, man.
Yeah, that's true. And I hope that the whole Corona situation comes good for us, for all of us, and we stay healthy. And as I said, thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you very much for having both of us, and for your time as well, and letting us all just reminisce as well as help answer questions to people. And we like doing these sorts of things. So no, it was a pleasure, and thank you for your time, and thank you to all the viewers and for all the questions as well. It's been fun.
Yep. So thank you, and we say to the people bye bye. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Am Sonntag gibt's. Was haben wir heute? Today is Thursday, right? So Thursday. Yes. So the next stream is Sunday. So nächsten Sonntag um 19 Uhr deutsche Zeit, 7 p.m. German time is the next stream. And thank you, Rich. Thank you, Ray. And see you next time. And stay tuned now on Skype. We will talk a little more. And ja, für alle Zuschauer, danke fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.
Danke für die Zeit.
Just a second.